Hi, welcome to the first inaugural panel of graduates from the Dan Clark Certified Speaking Program. I want to affectionately call this program The View, but I don't want to be sued for copyright infringement. So we'll just call it SLAP, Speak Like a Pro. And I suppose these would be the Slapettes or whatever you want to call yourselves. What we want to do, our format will be simple. I will be the host and I will ask a question and invite someone to step up and answer it first. And then they'll have an interaction between one another. The most beautiful part of this community that we've created, now ongoing for a year. We've become great friends, but the chemistry has been extraordinary, where we're focused on the same mission, pointing our intention in the right and same direction. And we have so much fun interacting one with another with humor, with tear-jerking stories, experiences. So let's get underway. The first question is, what in your life triggered your understanding of why you wanted to save the world, heal the world, change the world with your experience?
It's really quite humbling to be here with this panel. To be perfectly honest, the stories I've learned from all their life experiences are amazing. So it's an honor to be here with all you guys. It's been great to get to know you over the past 12 months. The seed for me was probably planted when I was 16 years old, and grew up playing baseball, loved playing baseball, and I aged out of this police athletic league program when I was 12 years old. But being 13 and nowhere to go on a summer morning, I went back down the field all the time and volunteered 13, 14, 15. And then when I was 16, they gave me a chance to run the field, run the program. And there was this boy, 5-year-old boy, who showed up every day with a huge smile, couldn't wait to play ball, just an infectious attitude. And what really made him special was he had a club hand, his stump for a right hand and a severe limb. And, you know, we didn't do T-ball back in those days. It was coach pitch, and I would pitch to him, pitch, and he just, he couldn't make contact with the ball. Be like, great try, go to the end of the bench, do it again next time. He would go and sit at the bench, and almost immediately, he was smiling again and cheering his teammates on. And then, finally, after I don't know how many games it was, he finally had a little dribbler out in front of home plate, and the catcher picked it up, and he threw the ball to the right field, and the boy made it to first base, and jumped up and down with sheer joy. His teammates rushed like he just won the World Series on a walk-off. I'm tearing up. I'm 16 years old, trying to hide my tears. And that moment, I think, just planted this desire to help other people have that same sort of passion and joy, despite the boy's handicap. And my prayer has always been, I pray life didn't crowd out that sheer joy, that optimism, the belief in what was possible, because it was infectious. And that seed was planted then. It kind of began to grow a little bit more after college when I came back from the Tony Robbins training and began doing more presentations for high school students and going, there's only a handful of people when I was doing them, but I loved every minute of it and realized that was the direction I really needed to kind of head.
Very beautiful. Exactly. So one of the underlying mantras of Speak Like a Pro, the Dan Clark Certified Speaking Program, is that we don't just teach what we know, we teach who we are, how we live, what we've done. And we all have talked many, many times that we have no credibility unless we're exactly the same off stage as we are on stage, the same at home, the same at work, the same at play. And that's what we've discovered as we've shared our personal experiences, kind of opened up the doors into our homes, open up our vests into our hearts and allowed ourselves to connect the head with the heart and really get close. I really believe that there's three elements to becoming that professional, polished speaker that they become. You need to recognize that it's a calling, not a job. What would you drive 5 hours one way to say to somebody for free? And if you had 1 hour to live, what would your message be? It can't just be a job, or you'll just make an excuse that you didn't make it because there was inclement weather. The second C is content. Too many speakers believe that the more content we add to a presentation, the more value we give it. No, which brings up the third C, connection. There's absolutely no reason for us to gather together unless we go out of our way to truly connect with our audience, with our listeners. And the only way that happens is if we become authentically real and understand who we are, what we believe, why we believe it. And that eliminates the imposter syndrome, so we know that our message is valuable and that there's at least one man and one woman in every audience whose life we could change if we just share our stories and connect with them, man to man, woman to man, man to man, woman to woman, spirit to spirit. So that leads up to my second question. Explain to us, consolidate your subject matter expertise. If someone wanted to hire you as a speaker and I wanted to recommend you, and they would ask me, okay, so what do they talk about? What does he talk about? How would you help us answer that question?
I think God gave me this ability to connect, particularly with younger people. And, in education, taught a lot about relationship. And I was always just able to connect well with teenagers. Even as I got older, I don't know, I was still able to keep that connection. And through those relationships, helping young people, because all the work I did throughout my professional career was working with students who really struggled in education. They struggled socially, they struggled academically, they struggled behaviorally. And, I talk now about the stories these students always told themselves. It was always negative. They really didn't have much self-confidence. And my ability to begin to help them reframe that is what helped get the results we had. And still remember one student in particular who, he was a Wiccan. So he was growing up in a family that practiced witchcraft. And I mean, it was pretty heavy duty. This is when I was running a day treatment program. And I was coming from a Christian background. But I was generally curious, like, explain this. Like, I don't understand Wiccan and all. And he'd start having conversation. He's a very bright young man. I mean, really brilliant. And we would just start having these conversations. And he started showing up. I would always get to school like at 7 o'clock in the morning. School would start at 8. And within a month of the school year, he's waiting for me on the front porch of we had one of those portable classrooms at the time. And he just wanted to have these conversations. And over the course of the year, he began to improve in lots of areas. And it was the ability to connect and have legitimate conversations, and then just begin asking questions, getting into reframe situations. And it was a great experience for both of us. I grew, he grew, but I think that is my expertise, is that ability to connect and have a way to help them see themselves for who they really can be, not who they necessarily think they are.
Beautiful. Great answers. And you can see the symbiotic respect and love and mutual respect and support we have for each other. You've triggered in my mind something that I think is worth pointing out. In my new book that just came out, Story Selling, one of the things that I really have hit home is that one of the number one challenges for a storyteller or a speaker is not knowing enough about the person who's going to hear the story. And therefore, if we don't take time to understand the person who's listening to the story, how in the world can we connect? So to your point, Tim, all of these individuals can really address any industry and be invited in as a subject matter expert to deal with that specific theme, purpose of the meeting, finding out who the attendees are, and then what is the desired message, the projected outcome of the meeting event planner. One of the universal things that I found as a Hall of Fame speaker for the last 40 years is that across the board, most people hate their jobs. They only look forward to Friday instead of Monday. They think they're paid by the hour, when in reality, we're paid for the value we bring to that hour. So when you can bring someone in, such as one of these four gentlemen, who can elevate the sense of value, of personal value, that right alone is worth every dime, every penny, and every resource required to bring them in to address your people. And having said that, let's come up with another question. Even though you, Tim, acknowledged the fact and spoke for everyone that you can customize your speeches and pick the right story to share at the right time for the right reason to accomplish the goals of the event planner, what we've reminded ourselves about in every call and every live event is that we seek to bless, not impress. If you're nervous before you speak, it means you think it's about you. But if you're excited and delighted and honored and humbled to speak, it means you know it's about them. And it's so critically important that we understand that in lieu of this third question. So think for a moment about what your perfect customer would be. What would be your ultimate lane that you would want to stay in as far as attracting that specific industry to bring you in as that subject matter expert? In other words, if I'm an event planner and I have 3 keynotes and I know what the theme is, and you ask me those 4 questions, what's the theme, what's the purpose, who are the attendees, and tell me what your desired message is, you are now on a program with 2 other keynote speakers. So it's critically important that we start to hone in on what our one specific message would be if we could have the perfect event with the perfect client asking us for the perfect topic. What would that client look like? Who would be your perfect ultimate client or customer?
Well, thank you for that question, because when I first started going down this road, I'm a mindset guy. Everybody needs help in mindset. So, geez, who's my ideal audience? It's everybody. Well, no, it's not really everybody, although everybody can use mindset. My ideal audience really, it's the teenagers and their families, because that parents need to be involved in the process of helping their children shift their mindset. And when they are involved in the process, it also happens to them. And that's when great things can really happen. And inevitably, all the years working in the schools with all these students who had challenges, when their parents were really fully involved and willing to do some work themselves, that's when real magic happened. So that audience, the educators, parents, and the students, is definitely the niche. And I can fine tune a little bit more because athletes and coaches, there's slightly different way of dealing with that subject matter when you deal with athletes versus the general population, but it's the age group and all the parents are still the same.
And now to Chuck. You know what? My career started speaking to high schools and then college students, and then I morphed into the corporate arena. And later on in life, I think I've taken the Myers-Briggs test about 3 different times and some other personality profile tests of what are my hot issues, where do I lean to share my ability to connect. And every single time, youth comes to the top of my list. And because I've had the fortunate opportunity to have my phone ring off the hook and speak mostly to corporations, still my favorite speeches in the year are when I get a chance to speak to a high school or college student leadership group. And that's a very unique talent. So as a Hall of Fame speaker, when I delivered my acceptance speech when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame back in 2005, I challenged every single fellow professional speaker with the comment that you're not a professional speaker. You can't call yourself a professional speaker until you're in until you're in a gymnasium at the last period of the day with 3,000 students getting ready to leave for spring break. And you're expected to keep their attention for 45 minutes and get a standing ovation. I honor you, brother. We all honor you. Your skill set is way off the charts. And any event planner who needs someone to come in and talk to parents about how to connect with their children, their children's friends, if any event planner needs to know the real solution to what really ails everybody, and that is, how do we connect? How do we get them to listen? How do we get them to act on our wisdom? You're the guy. You're the guy. And I could just see you with your $1 million smile. You'll be 95 years old, wheeled in a wheelchair, and all the kids are going to go, what can this dinosaur possibly teach me? And within 5 minutes, you're going to have them. Within 10 minutes, they're going to be on the edges of their seats. And 50 to 60 minutes later, they're going to have their lives changed forever. We honor you. And there's not a whole lot of people on this planet who have your skill set. It makes you a unicorn. It makes you so powerful in the marketplace because no other success can compensate for failure in the home. When we focus in on a corporate audience, they still have relationships. And if their relationships with their spouses, significant others, or children are not more important than making money or chasing a frickin' dollar, they're out of balance and they need your message more than anybody else's message on the planet. We always get together as fellow Hall of Famers at the NSA National Speakers Association conventions. And I remember sitting there with fellow Hall of Famers. And the moderator, he says, okay, I got a question. What do you do if you're intimidated to speak to an audience who makes more money than you do? And everybody's whipping out their little answers. And I'm like, really? And I get to the end and I raised my hand and I said, if they're making more money than we are, they need our message more than anyone else on the planet. So your message of balance, which is a misnomer, either or, no, what you've done is you've massaged it to either and. We really can have it all if we prioritize and stop thinking of ourselves as multitaskers, which basically is admitting we're lousy at a lot of things. You've taught us all that no, the new mindset is to be a juggler because the juggler only controls the ball in his hand. Once we let go of the ball, we've relinquished control, so why worry about it? And let's just take care of business with the ball we can control and keep it rolling. So I honor you, Coach Chuck. I honor we all do because we know that your ability to communicate at every level, especially to the youth, is such an incredibly important and significant skill set that very few have. So I'm so grateful to be reminded, and I'd be remiss if I didn't publicly thank you for allowing your son, Billy, to participate because he's been vulnerable. He's added such an amazing insight to all of our discussions and all of our calls and live events. Now, I can speak for the four of us. We love your son just as much as you do, even though you're the dad, because of the way you've raised him to be a man. And now the head coach of his former high school, you can't say it any better than that he's voted in by his peers in his community to just do what you've taught him to do, and that is to connect, to care, and to communicate at the deepest level of love. I hope that says what's in my heart.
Wow.
So that's it. And we've run out of time. But as I said, this is the first panel of our SLAP group, SLAP, Speak Like a Pro. And if anyone's interested in joining our community and having the same opportunity to not only generate a skill set to become a professional speaker and get paid to speaker and a master storyteller, but to generate new friends, I challenge you to join our group. And hopefully you've seen the rotating screenshots. And if you can take the time to scan those QR codes and get in touch with them individually, they've remained autonomous, but together we are quite the team. And how cool would that be as an event planner if you decided to bring all 5 of us and our missing counterpart. You've seen the lovely Tanya White's picture come up on the rotation. How cool would that be if you decide to give us a half a day where each person gets a chance to speak as a keynote, and then we come together as a panel to blow every person's mind with this brotherhood, this sisterhood, this brotherhood with a sister. I don't know how to say that. And to really take your audience from where they are to where you want them to be. Until we meet again, I say thank you to The View, and maybe we'll get a television contract because of this amazing experience that you just witnessed.